Legs and back are 10 degrees off square, and the seat has all 45-degree miters. So I had to adjust the angle of my saw only 3 times. Using a stop block saved me a lot of time and gave me consistent lengths. As you can probably tell from the video, the blade of my saw was quite old and dull already. But taking my time, I got to make all the cuts with it. It only left a bit more to clean up later on. After cutting all the pieces, I cleaned the parts and got them ready for weld using a flat disc and then a wire wheel brush. That took me some time, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I took a few minutes to make this simple jig to speed up the process and avoid measuring over and over. I used some scrap ply nailed on the melamine. That allowed me to simply clamp the pieces in place and weld them, without measuring anything. First I build the leg assemblies. And then I build all the seats and the backs, adapting my jig for the square angles. I set the machine just high enough to have a good penetration of the weld without burning away the thin walls of the tube. Then it was time to complete the legs with some feet. I laid out all the parts with a Sharpie on a steel plate, accounting for the blade thickness. And then I center punched them and moved over to my drill press. I first drilled small pilot holes, then I changed the bit and drilled the right size holes. The single pieces were eventually cut off with the cutting wheel on my grinder. And those curved lines I drew earlier came really in handy. Then quick clean up and they were ready to get the nuts welded on. And with these last welds, the legs were complete. To finish welding together all the frame parts and have the seats level and at the right height, I made this sort of box to tack the parts in place, so I could easily run the full welds on all the joints. Now, with the metal frame finished and a brand new blade on my saw, it was time to cut the walnut boards. And I'm loving this blade. I got the cleanest cuts I've ever had with my miter saw. This one is a 60-tooth crosscut blade, and I'll definitely get another CMT but 40-tooth for my table saw because that one also needs a new blade. Speaking of the table saw, I cut in half all the boards and then moved back to the drill press. And this simple setup worked out great. 96 holes to drill and countersink, and it made a quick and easy job of it. And after all that noise, it was so nice to use my block plane to make small chamfers on all the edges. This wood is walnut Bahia and it's usually used for indoor furniture, which is not my case. So I'm using water-based poly rated for very high water and UV protection. I put on 1 coat of medium walnut and then 3 coats of clear one. Before the final assembly, I painted these self-drilling screws with the same charcoal grey I used for the frame, after 1 coat of antirust primer. And with those self-drilling screws, a spacer and 2 spring clamps, mounting the slats was super quick and super easy. Now the very last thing left to do was removing the temporary bolts and screwing the stainless steel feet with the rubber caps. It was not the quickest project, working on and off on it over 3 weekends this summer, but I'm very pleased with the way they turned out and they're comfortable and easy to move around for everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.